Hey guys, welcome to Jerry's Live. As always, I'm your host, Amy Gardner-Jean. I apparently still have my badge on. Thank you for noticing that.
I didn't notice it
No,
before.
that's okay. It was like a really hip, cool necklace that it wasn't. Hope you guys are all doing well. Today we're going to be drawing, it's JL103, so if you're playing along at home, you're going to type that as a keyword in the search box on jerrysartarama.com. JL103. The title officially is Ink Drawing with a Brush. Let's get wild and loose. So we'll get started with that in just a minute. So with this episode that we're going to be doing, sometimes we all get, whether you term it artist block, whether you term it kind of maybe a lack of interest. You know you should be working in your studio. You've got 5 million things in there that you should be doing. You might even have a commission that needs to be, getting going on. You're trying to meet a deadline, but you just are not feeling it. Totally uninspired. Maybe you've had some bad stuff going on around you, some bad juju. Maybe you're just bored. Maybe you're just, so tired of painting the same thing all the time that it's not going. So this is a really awesome little set that's just, if you ever need to just loosen up and kind of be free and do some things where because it's black and white, I think more people feel like it's practice and they don't care as much and maybe they're more willing to take chances. Then if it's color where it's like, oh my gosh, this has to be, and we fought that at the workshop this Saturday. I was like, we're here to have fun. Nobody paints, the Sistine Chapel in 5 hours. Just, if they do, God only knows what they're doing. But, so this set is something that's perfect for this. So, and I've had people around here know, and I'm not going to talk about it on air, but I've had a very stressful last few days with a friend that passed away. So this is something that's like the perfect episode for this, where if I had to get up here and give a huge product talk and everything else, I would not, I'd probably just be under the table sobbing at that point. So we're going to just do something where we're going to have fun and loosen up. So we've got just some Fabriano Studio watercolor paper. It's a 20% cotton paper. Even for practice, I prefer something that's got some cotton to it. It absorbs really differently than a lot of paper pulp paper. So we're going to be using this. Actually, I have something in there from something before. Katie, is this a good spot for us to work right there, you think? Okay. There you go. All right. So I've got that. That's what we're going to use for paper. So it's just a cold press. I think it looks like a 9x12. I'm guessing that's what it is. Then I've got some quill brushes, the Harmony Squirrel Quill, that are very inexpensive, natural squirrel quill brush. I'll wash the sizing out of those in just a minute. Then I've got some Polar Flow brushes that are flats. A flat here that's the 700F, and then a very small round. So if I want to do any little detail work, I've got those. And then I've got a little set that's the Golden Panda. It's the black Sumi-E ink sketch set. And all this is this perfect little transportable kind of box that's got a little cake of dry Sumi ink. So it's like a pan. And then this little bottle in it. Now, we're changing over the design. The pan used to be on this side in this well, and then the bottle was here. This is the new one, so I'm showing it. There may still be some of the other one in stock. But it's got this great little dropper. All you have to do is kind of squirt a little bit on that pan. It'll reconstitute it and it'll pull up the color really easy. So it's got water to bring with you. Other than cleaning the brush out, you don't kind of want for anything. You wouldn't have to have a giant cup. You could just have a small bottle of water with you. So, and then I grabbed some accurate pens because I thought rather than do, maybe we'll do a quick sketch and then I think I've got a couple things here. And rather than just kind of something loose. Now,
could you use a crow quill pen with that?
Yeah, I don't know.
Pens instead of, if you wanted
to dip it into that. The problem would be you'd need to put it in something. She asked if you could use a crow quill pen. It would be that you've got to have something deeper that can kind of dip down into. So I guess if you kind of put it in the corner and tilted it up, it would just be, it's hard before the brush to know how black you're making that. Ink, I think once you got a little bit of practice behind you though,
I feel like you could.
I don't think it would be that hard. Or if you just had a little, like a Dixie cup or something like that and kept wetting a brush and putting it in there, that would work really well too. So, that's definitely something that we can try kind of after the fact and see.
Just curious.
Yeah. Well, because that'd be nice. You could get some nice lines
and just have to take the one thing along with you.
Okay, so those are cleaned out. Always wash the sizing out of your brush. Funny story, at the workshop I brought a bunch of brushes, so everybody got a couple little brush sets, brush sets for free that took the class. So they got to try some cool proprietary brushes from Jerry's. You know that more than 50% of the people didn't know you're supposed to wash the sizing out of the brush? Had no clue. So when you get the brushes and they're that stiff, pretty, pointy, or, you know, perfectly flat, that's just a starch or pectin or something that's been put on that brush to keep the shape so it looks really pretty and protects the bristles in shipping. You always want to wash that out with some soap and water, or even just water if it's a watercolor brush, and not use it because you can actually break the bristles if you're pushing down on it hard trying to load the brush and soften it if it's a natural hair softer brush. And nobody wants to break the brand new brush. So just note to self, wash sizing out of the brush.
Timothy disagrees.
Yeah, well, and Timothy's what, 5?
6, almost 6, yeah.
So, yeah, that's okay. He's learning early, though. That's what I like. All right, so we'll just kind of, for the first thing, we'll just do something fun. This would be if I was just in the house, bored, or just like today, it would be a completely uninspired day. I would just first, you know, there's some go-tos I have for just trying out brushes when I do them. In fact, I think that's what I'm going to do. So I'm not feeling the flower. I had a kind of weedy flower planned, but we're going to just do something. It's something that I went to a Georgia O'Keeffe exhibit and realized that it's Georgia O'Keeffe that's where I have this thing stuck in my head. But there's this kind of thing that she does with, let's see, you can get just a very gentle black. You can really scrub that and load it up if you want. And get a super deep. Look how pretty that is. Black. Or the side to kind of thin it out. You know, something really nice in between. Some nice little lighter. And that's darker than I wanted, so all I have to do is rinse that brush. Actually, we'll take the big one. Blot the excess water out. Can lift that back out of it. Then I've got the lighter color, that's what I wanted. Now, squirrels give you, brushes like this give you a nice, kind of, they can make a really nice wash with them, where you can cover a lot of area. Like if I took this one,
They hold a lot.
yes, and pull that color across really nicely. But you can see that in pushing down, see how that's got that kind of, it's kind of pushed to the side there like that. They don't have that spring back. Now, if you like the feel of the squirrel, but you want a little bit of spring back, the Danube brushes are the ones that you would want because they've got a nice blend of synthetic and natural hair bristle in the brush that they keep good shape, and you can get a little bit of spring back, but still that really thirsty, moppy, you know, body that these have. And you know, people might ask, what's the purpose of this? This is just to relax. This is just maybe a way to, you get a new brush and you know, rather than try it on a new artwork where you may or may not be real happy with the results, it might not be exactly what you want. It gives you a way to kind of, with the same type of a formula in your head for the artwork, you can really explore what that brush will actually do on that paper. It's a good way to also test a new paper. If it's something that you've done before or something that's kind of a formulaic series of brush strokes, you're going to see whether this paper absorbs more quickly than the paper you're usually used to, how much buckle there's going to be in the paper. It's just kind of a good way of trying something out and doing something that I don't have any affinity for this having to turn out. It's just very relaxed. And yes, Frida, it sounded like you were going to say something and I totally
Yes, Elaine Burnett was asking, how permanent is the Golden Panda Sumi-E? Is it going to be waterproof after it dries?
You know what, that's a good question. I don't know. We can put some on the paper and then a little bit later we'll come back and actually this did re-wet, so I'm guessing that it's not a shellac base probably, because that's going to be what permanent is, right? Just like with watercolors, you can pick stuff up. This is not, I don't believe this is a shellac base. Number one, I would not want to use these brushes in that because I would never want to use them in anything again. We'll take, okay, this is not completely dry. I'm just going to put a little bit darker over here. And Frida, it's going to be your reminder, if you will, to come back to this a little bit later in the episode, okay? If you don't mind. You don't mind bearing the burden of... I know you might not be the right person. You just looked at me like, what? Amanda? Amanda,
am I
hey.
really the right person of this group here to remember something later on? Let's be real. No, I'll remind you towards the end of the episode.
Okay. What'd you say?
Maybe.
Yeah, maybe. You never know. You know.
I'm writing a
There's
note
a first.
in
Yeah.
bright
There you
pink
go.
ink.
There you go. And there you go. Okay, so something just kind of fun, different. That was very relaxing. I just brought down my stress level a little bit. Having a high stress level. It's been a day.
Yeah.
And now I have a bird, so even more of a day. Amanda doesn't know. I have a bird now.
She has a bird now.
A cockatoo.
Those are fun.
Yes, she's very sweet. But now I have a bird. Very different than dogs.
Going on over there.
I do.
When I worked at the coffee shop, we had one come through in the drive-through like every day. It was so good.
Yes, she's already been through the drive-through in Starbucks. She was in the passenger seat in a crate. And the woman was very concerned that she thought I was just randomly taking my bird for a coffee, apparently. So, yeah, I don't know.
I'm sure they've seen worse.
Yeah. Well, they're used to me asking for puppuccinos for dogs, so. All right, so we got two things. We can draw and then tint. This actually would be perfect for doing urban sketching. Draw your sketch out very quickly, and then you could do these nice gray value washes, right? Okay, so I've got a goat that's black and white, but I've also got this really handsome lion. What would you guys prefer seeing?
Lion.
Okay. The lion. Amanda, are you down with that, or you like the goat personally?
I kind of like the goat personally, but I'm not tied to either of them.
Okay. Well, let's, we can see how quickly we can do this, right? All right. So, it's the 05 Accurate pen. So, I guess we need to turn this to a vertical Will's going to be very sad. I think he really liked the goat.
A few episodes ago, we studied value.
Yeah, so
and
this would be a
that's where
good,
this comes into play.
Very nice, Frida. Frida said, after studying value a few episodes ago, this would be helpful. Plus, we can see how light we can get this to go. So, all right. So, and we're going to use how we drew with shapes. Because this is just going to be a quick sketch, okay? So here's his little head. They have very shovel-faced. All right.
Amy, will you push the pad up just a tiny bit? Because the bottom's
That
not
good?
getting too dry.
That's fine. I'm going to put this over here and then we'll come back to that. All right. Quick scribbling. We're not trying to really assign any, like, again, not making this where we're gonna feel like oh my god, I've screwed it up. This is, you know, this is just practice. We're just relaxing. We're just trying to get a little bit of a impression of this. It's gonna be very loose and relaxed. We're gonna have fun, dang it.
It's the last thing we do.
Yes. Oh, Amanda, the bird swears too.
So Frida told me.
Oh, yeah. Yes. So that should be fun.
Be great.
That's good. It won't be the first time it's heard it then.
Bex wants you to give the lion goat horns.
Bex.
I agree
Now,
with
now.
Bex. I second.
Yeah, we're making this enjoyable for Amy. We're not making Amy stressed out. Remember that part? The fun part. Okay. Are there any questions so far?
Oh yeah.
Not yet. All right.
Bettina says you could make the goat peek over the lion. All sorts of ideas.
I think we should do the goat's reflection in the lion's eye.
Yeah.
We're
No?
just taking this to a whole nother.
Too much?
All right, so then we got up here. This is actually one of the images that somebody painted this weekend, so that was really fun to see how that turned out. I feel like I'm not sure what I should be talking and explaining. Feel free to jump in. Huh?
No.
So see, this is like a drawing and a ink episode all in one, right?
I'd be impressed with how fast that's
looks like a lion.
Mm-hmm.
But I used to go to the zoo. Everybody's
Yeah.
always like, "Ow, such talent." No, you should see my drawings from when I first started going to the zoo in college. You can tell what they are, but they're pretty bad.
Elaine has another question.
Sure.
She's asking for the best type of paper to use. Now you're using Fabriano watercolor paper here.
Yes, that's the studio. It just depends on, you know, if you're just playing, A, you could just use paper pulp. You know, B, I like this compared to just, it gives some, so if this does turn out, and I do like it, it's at least kind of, you know, what I would consider a decently archival paper.
But you want to use watercolor paper since there's so much water in it.
You could use water or mixed media. I mean, it's going to buckle some. I mean, we saw that, she asked if you have to use watercolor paper. You can see that this is buckled some, right? Because it's 140-pound paper. And that it's got some paper pulp content, it does make it tend to buckle a little bit more. But you could use a mixed media paper. I think anything above like 90 pounds would be good. I think I would go with 98 pounds or higher, just because I'm paper picky weird. But that should work. And you know what? You could use thinner paper. They use Sumi on rice paper and stuff, so it's just, you know what your paper does, and don't be surprised if it's got buckling, and you know that's just part of it. This is supposed to be relaxing. We're relaxing. All right. I think I'm about ready to. I just like, I wouldn't have to do this if I want to do most of this wash, but I like a little bit of ink showing through. So then I don't have to make it as dark if I don't want to. But see, talking and sketching sometimes is hard for me. Nice, light, loose sketching, scribbling almost, right? Okay. Ready? We're ready to try this out?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. So I'm going to use that larger number 4 first, just to kind of start laying in some area, and I'm just going to pick up a little bit of the ink. I don't want like a lot of ink in this.
Hey, I have a question.
Yes, Amanda.
What is the difference between Sumi and India inks?
Okay, the difference between Sumi and India inks are usually considered waterproof. They usually have some sort of shellac or something like that in it. The Sumi inks tend to be just kind of ground on a stone, or in something like this. Sometimes you can get them in a bottle where they're pre-made, but they tend to be more like loose and watercolory, where you can keep adding layers and it can pick up. Notice I'm just kind of almost flicking my wrist, which helps kind of keep that point. I've got the brush up straight, not at an angle like this where I'm laying it on. It's up. So if I've got my hand turned, this is about how I've got that brush at that angle if this is my flat paper, okay? So I can kind of just flick my wrist to get a nice pointed stroke at first and then kind of fill in around it. And we can come back in as this dries. We don't have to, continue to keep building on it. It's actually probably good to come and do a little bit of other stuff to kind of see what the value is.
Could you use paint over top of that to give it a tint of color, or would it pick back up?
It's because it's not a India ink, it's going to pick up. I mean, if you could do it really light-handed, possibly, if you've got experience with that, but most people don't. I don't have the patience to, and the light-handedness, to be quite honestly truthful. So it would pick up some. I mean, now what you could do with it is take like the Jerry's Jumbo Jet pencils over it and add a nice kind of mixed media effect, because this would dry and soak in, but that paper you could still draw over the top of it and that wouldn't pick it up. You know, I think that's what I would be more apt to do, just for something kind of fun and different. It'd be a really pretty look to it, you know. Or even a little bit of, I mean, charcoal pencil would even work. Okay, now I'm going to go with, in just a second here, switch to the little bit smaller brush. Just going to add a little bit more. Since this part isn't dry, add a little more dark in there. Any other questions?
Tammy wants to know if this is similar. She said she has one of those ink sticks that you grind into water to make.
Yes, same thing. This is just done in a pre-made cake. So you could definitely do this. Now, where the ink stick's kind of a little tricky is once you grind it, you've got this kind of, I mean, you could let that dry and then use it kind of as is, but it's just would be the, it's easier to kind of re-wet a cake as opposed to that ink stick. It'll work though. Go Tammy with the ink stick. Those things are fun. Oh, and Cindy Lemieux said to say hi to you ladies. She
Hello.
is at a framing seminar, how to do your own framing.
Oh, cool.
And was very distraught that she was going to miss us. I said, A, we do replays, and B, that she was excused and got a free pass this time.
Paula would like to know if you wanted to seal it, what would you use?
You would need to use something like the, like how we do the Sennelier Soluvar spray varnish, the spray MSA varnish over the top. Very light-handed at first, because this would be like watercolor to seal. You'd need to do very, very light coats. But that would work very, very well. If you're just joining us, we're using the Golden Panda Black Sumi-E sketch. Sumi-E ink sketch. There's a lot of E's and I's in there. I'm very confused and tired. All right, so it's just a little cake. You just can wet it just like watercolor. It's ink, it picks right up. And lay it down with the brush. And thin it and get these nice washes with it. You can make it really thick and get some heavy darks. We'll come back to his mouth in a little bit and put kind of our darks on with something very small. wanted, so I'm just going to come back and with it really wet and kind of pick that up. That edge got, so I just blotted that brush on my hand, just pulled out that excess fluid to take, instead of a harsher line, kind of very lightly dry brush it. See how it kind of creates that softness to it. In fact, I'm going to be good because I know Amanda and Frida are going to be like, you're wiping ink on you again.
Look at that.
I'm
Look, I'm blotting. I'm
just surprised you don't have any on your shirt yet.
What if I do and you just can't see? This shirt has magical powers. It doesn't pick up paint. But this and the Bob Ross shirt have not had paint on it yet. Probably be my famous last words, but I'm just saying. Okay, now I'm doing some kind of dry brushing. This is still wet. Right here, the paper's a little damp, so I'm just taking a lot of that ink with the tip of the brush and very little water. And dry brushing that in. I know his hair isn't going like that. I like the pattern that it looks like here. It's kind of like fire. So I'm enhancing that somewhat. All right. So now let's kind of work on his face up here. I don't know why I keep using that water, because we can do this with our little bottle. Ta-da! Going across some of the darker spots there.
So when using the Sumi-E inks, do you always start lighter and then go darker as you work? Or would you ever start in with your darkest darks and then work lighter?
I don't think there's like any, for me, I don't know. This is just, for this one drawing, I'm tentative because it's harder to pull ink back up because it will stain. They asked, would you go lighter to darker, or can you go darker or whatever? That other one, obviously I did some darker because I kind of already had an idea of what I was going to be doing with that. So it's just kind of whatever. This isn't, like we said, this is our getting wild and loose. You can try anything, right? This is where you don't have to, oh, that's too dark. Blot, not on the clothes, Amanda. You don't have to, like this. You don't have to own up to this. You can just, do nothing with it later. This is just for fun and to relax and to try to kind of maybe get back on artistic track. So, for what we're doing, I mean, if you're obviously wanting to take this and make it a fine art, you know, thing.
Or even just use this as a warm-up piece.
Right. Well, and if you've relaxed and played with it, you're going to know what it can do and what you prefer to do and how dark to make it, you know, with a little bit of how much water and a little bit of pressure and all that. So I think I'm going to need to switch to for being loose, because I'm always so stick to one brush size. I'm using this larger one, but I think it's time to switch, because I feel like this is, without that bounce back, this is going to get away from me when I'm going in those eyes. So let's use the last of this little bit that's in here. Okay. All right, so I'm going to switch to the little bit smaller one for the going around the eyes, and then we'll use the little teeny tiny polar flow for the kind of last darkness. Okay, so this is the one that's the size 1. And it's going to be significantly smaller.
So I was wondering if you can use it with watercolor, like concurrently,
Meaning,
use them at the same time.
it's going to blend in with your watercolors, because this is not, I mean, the issue would be ink's really not the best thing to kind of be switching around unless you're really good at washing your brushes with lots of soap. So it might not be good to, and you know, unless these are the watercolors you're going to stick out for just that painting session and then clean your palette off, you might get some of that color coming in and out, and that can really muddy up your nice crisp watercolors if you use it with it. So, I mean, it's not that it's not possible. It would just be something, again, you would want to practice and play with, and not be like, oh my gosh, there's this competition and I've got like 3 nights of painting to go before I need to turn this in, and that's not the time to suddenly try it out and then realize that it is not going to work, and that's your last piece of paper, you know. It's almost like I'm saying that as the voice of experience.
Also, we were wondering what other substrates would you recommend for ink such as this?
With this, you could use it on any watercolor surface, any paper. You could use it on Yupo. You could use it on probably even something like a smooth gesso panel if you didn't do it too washy, because it, with the ink loaded up really nicely, would work on that for just a couple coats, right? But it would need to be a smooth panel. Something like the Da Vinci panels, you can actually, with that smooth panel, you can actually use some of the inks with the brush like this on, as long as you're not trying to put like lots of water and washes. So, illustration board, journaling, this would be perfect for journals, because then you've got your gray values, you know, right set into a kit. This would be perfect for doing urban sketching, as opposed to taking a whole watercolor box. This is just a little tiny box that could go with you, and it's already got that little water in it. You can see you really don't need a whole lot of, other than something to just rinse your brush out with. It doesn't take a lot of extra tools or brushes or other things to manage this. That's a good question. Anything pretty much that could take watercolor, right, is going to be perfect for this kind of thing. So have any of the viewers tried Sumi painting before? Maybe not necessarily a cake, but like Tammy said that she had an ink stick.
Right, yeah, so that, and then Not sure otherwise. I had to when I was in college.
You say that like it was a horrible, horrible
No, I
experience.
mean,
I
it turned out
had
real
to.
cool. It was just
Oh, that's cool.
I hadn't done it before then.
Nice.
We used a lot of inks in my figure drawing class for gestural drawings and warm-ups and things like that.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome. In case you guys didn't hear Frida say that they use them a lot in figure drawing for gestural warm-ups and things, which is nice because it makes you be loose, right? So
Yep.
you're a lot less likely to overthink what you're doing that way.
Once we had to take an 18 by 24 piece of newsprint and we had to start as dark as we could go with the ink and do a row of circles, and each row higher had to be a shade lighter, and we had to fill the entire page.
That's awesome.
Yes
And
no.
difficult. Awesome and difficult. How long did that take? How many nail biting minutes? Is that when you started biting your nails, Frida?
I literally don't remember when I started doing that. I
That's-
wish I could blame
that
it on
sounds
the
like
drawing.
yeah, that sounds like a really, like a totally legit way of, thanks to my art teacher. All right, so a little bit more in here. Whoa, that got away from me. You can see, you know, that got a little too darker than I wanted, but it wasn't that hard to pick up, so. It's really not white light here, but I just didn't know how light I was going to make my values, so that's why I saved that to kind of blend in there at the last minute. Any other questions that anybody's got? We'll do. All right. So the eyes, see how the eyes are a lot lighter than I've made the nose lighter, but I kind of don't really want to make it super dark. I'm going to darken it just a touch with this flat. I think it'd be easier to pull it across. It's still pretty damp. Let's really get some darks with this little brush. I'm dry brushing this on. See how nice and deep and rich that is. Shadow there. A little dark. All right. I like that. That looks nice and dark. Okay. Oh, whoa, whoa. Too crazy. That up. We need to come back over and check our little test thing, Frida. Before we finish.
So glad you remembered.
Frida forgot her note.
It's right there.
I'm teasing you. Just teasing.
I just didn't remember it was right there.
Just kidding. I'm kidding. All right, so a little bit of black right in the nose there.
Is this relatively light fast, or do you think it'll fade?
It should be really nice and light fast. The Sumi inks are generally, you know, they're earth tone pigments, so they're not. Those are your most light fast of the pigments. All right.
And if you were gonna go in and put in white whiskers, what would you choose to use?
White, either white. Okay, she said if I wanted to go back in and put white whiskers in, I would either use a white acrylic gouache or a white watercolor gouache, and it would have to be mixed really thick because gouache is opaque, right? And dry brushed on it very carefully with a long liner because it could pick that ink up if it's too wet.
What about the white jumbo jet pencil?
That's not as opaque unless it's really black. And because this is a lot of gray values, I don't think, she's asked about the white jumbo jet pencil. I don't think it would be dark enough, Frida, over the gray values. It would work if we made this really, really dark, like if we'd done the goat picture and we wanted to come back in with really white highlight, if we got some of our gray value, you know, over it, that would work then. But it's just not gonna pick up on these very light tones because a lot of this paper doesn't have any of the ink on it at all.
What about a white gel pen?
White gel pen would be perfect. The Jelly Roll pen. All right. Now, like you can see that these have been stained by that. That's not going to come out of the white. So that's a very nice, dark, rich ink. Kind of missed my little bumpy parts of his nose, so. All right, so we're almost ready to test that. I'm gonna tell you now. We're gonna test it just to prove it, but I'm gonna tell you now that this is gonna pick up because it's been picking up as I work on the washes, and then I can go back and pick it up to move it around if I make it too dark. Which that's a really nice thing about this is if I decided this part was too black and I wanted it lighter, I could go back and lift it some, which I would prefer. You know, the shellac based inks are not easy to lift. They're very unforgiving. Yes, they're waterproof and then you can do other things over it. But for being able to play and relax and feel like you're not fighting the medium, it's much better to have something that's more forgiving and relaxing. All right, so we're gonna put line over here. Let's just put this here. Okay, so we did this line, right, is our blackest black. So I'm gonna take this brush and I'm not gonna make it, I'm gonna blot it first. So this has been blotted, so it's very, very dry.
How does this ink feel compared to watercolor?
See?
Does it have the same flow?
That picks up. So you can see right there is where I did that. Again, rinse the brush, blot it, so it doesn't have that ink in it. Hold on, Frida. See how that pulls that up? I like that, because you can make corrections. That's not good if you're used to the India ink, and that's what you want. All right, so you said what now? Easy would it be to make corrections?
Does this ink feel and flow like watercolor?
Yes and no. It flows very smoothly like watercolor. When I was really digging my brush in and picking up the ink, it feels like if you've ever used an ink stone and you are grinding it on the surface and it's got that little bit of body to it. That's what it feels like. You can feel the thickness. It feels more like a watercolor gouache. If you've used watercolor gouache versus watercolors, watercolor gouache has some body to it, right, Katie? It's got some almost grit.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say.
It's not grit, but that's what it feels like. It's kind of stickier feeling.
Almost feel the pigment.
The inert pigments in it, yeah.
In it,
Yes.
as opposed to the watercolor just being like you're
Yes.
pushing
So,
water.
definitely. All right, so see, pretty relaxing. We did just our little test sheet. I like that you can see where some of this stuff before it dried kind of picked and pulled into each other. It's very, let's see See how that picked and pulled into each other? I like that look here. That's really fun. So this is a great little, what? How much is that sketch set, guys? I don't have to.
$6.49
For
That's it?
for that little box.
Yeah.
for $6.49, it's the perfect little ink cake. We barely even touched what ink is on there.
I'm sorry,
what we've used.
$6.59.
10 cents for Rita, and now I just don't want
I
it
know.
anymore. What the heck? So, little bottle of water, a nice cake, perfect little box to take it in. Just for something that's relaxing that you can travel with, that you can do, you know, gray values with landscape painting or urban sketching or whatever. It's a great, fun little thing. And we just relaxed and enjoyed ourselves, right? I mean, I did. I don't know if they did, but I did. So until then, I hope you found this relaxing. Give it a try. It's very zen. Katie's going, yes, Katie's zen. All right, guys. Thanks again for Kids First, and you guys take care.